Hey everybody, John here. So I'm in aggravated mode because I almost got in a traffic accident. And I want to explain to you what happened and what you should be aware of, because I've seen people do this many times. So you see this white line, okay? You've got a two-lane road. You got a white line here. And a lot of times the white line is usually here, I would say closer. So on my street, the white line is a lot closer to the edge of the road. You know, if you say this is the road right here, and the white line where you stop is supposed to be here. Well, jackass today in a truck came right across my lane, cut through my lane, and then came around here. So he cut the corner very sharp. And so I was about here on my motorcycle. I'm right about here. And I slammed on my brakes because I saw him flying in really close to that edge. And it's something I have to be aware of, because a fender bender in a car, you can usually walk away from. On a fender bender on a motorcycle, chances are you're not going to be walking away. You're going to be carried away in an ambulance, or trying to walk away bleeding or with an injury, because if you get hit by a car, much more dangerous, about 10 times more dangerous, just falling off of a motorcycle. Anyway, so this a-hole, like I said, came cutting in across my lane, and if I had been, I think, a second sooner and I had gotten to this white line, there's a chances that he would have hit me, and I was very sure at that point. So he gets to about here, pulls into my street, and I gave him the universal sign. What the hell was that? Or what the fuck? Both hands. I just stopped, gave him the two-handed, what the hell was that? So he stops his truck and backs up. Older guy, probably late 50s, early 60s. Looks kind of like a chunky guy, because I could only see him, you know, from the door. So he says, he rolls down his window, and I can't remember exactly what he said, but something to the effect of, "You got a problem with something?" And I said, "Yeah, you cut across my lane, and if I had been there, you'd have hit me." And then he looks at me and he says, "Well, I guess you'd have had a big fucking problem then." And then I said, "No, you'd have had a big fucking problem." So then it almost looked like he was reaching for his door handle, or, I don't know, reaching for a bat or something. I don't know if he was reaching for a gun. I don't know. From his speech patterns, it seems to me that he was trying to get out and looking aggressive at that point. Now, I have never really had, well, maybe I've had one, what do you call that, road rage incident, where I actually went up to somebody's car window and told him what the hell he did, because the guy cut me off on my lane. If I had not slammed on the brakes, he would have hit me and sideswiped me and knocked me off the road, and it would have been a bad scene. So here's the thing, people do this all the time, and it's probably for a couple reasons. Number one, reckless driver. They just don't care about, you know, other people. You know, they're thinking of themselves, and that's it. Number two, impaired driver, possibly. Maybe they're on drugs, maybe they're drinking. I don't know. You just never know with people. You know, it's 2 o'clock in the afternoon, guy could have been loaded. I've known a lot of people that drink in the morning, depending on what they're doing. Number three, something else. Maybe they're angry. Maybe they're just driving because they're pissed off, and they're not driving because they're pissed off. They're just pissed off driving. You know, maybe something bad to them, they don't give a shit. They're just trying to get home in a hurry, maybe. Maybe that's number three. I'm in a hurry, so I don't care. So here's my my caution to you. Always err on the, like, if you're pulling into a street and you can't necessarily see anybody coming, you're just assuming that there's nobody there. But in 2 seconds, there could be somebody there. Please be careful when you pull into a street and you're not in your lane. That's what I'm trying to say. Always pull in the right lane. Always assume that there could be somebody coming. It could be a motorcycle driver. It could be somebody walking in the street. I don't think people think about that. If you've never ridden a motorcycle, yeah, you know, it can be a dangerous thing. I've only been in the hospital one time, and it's because the road was wet. Somebody cut me off. I hit the brakes and slid down the road doing like 35, 40 miles an hour. And it was very lucky. Very lucky I didn't hit anybody. Nobody hit me. I suffered a fractured heel bone, and it wasn't a big deal. Except for the bill from the emergency. That was a big deal. I think luckily I had insurance at the time. So please, please think about other people when you're turning a corner. Anywhere. If it's a big highway, small highway, just assume somebody could be there and stay in your lane when you make a turn. Don't cut it. If you have 2 lanes turning, you know, just try to be aware of what's going on around you. Now, if you're a perfect driver like me, don't worry about it. But just being considerate could save somebody's life someday. I walk downtown all the time, or run, you know. But when I cross the road, I usually walk across the road. I've had many drivers that will drive right up to me and then slow down when I'm doing the crosswalk, because sometimes the light is green for the left turn, but there's a crosswalk signal, and they don't seem to understand that the crosswalk signal is green when they have a green light. It doesn't mean you can turn. You have to look for pedestrians. Pedestrians, if you don't know, pedestrians have the right of way no matter where you are. You can cross a highway, and you're supposed to slow down for pedestrians. That's what the rule is. Now, the rule for pedestrian crossing is that you're supposed to, the rule for pedestrians is that if you have a crosswalk, you should cross there. That's what pedestrians are responsible for. If you have a pedestrian 30 feet down the road and you just feel like jaywalking across the road, you could get a ticket probably for that. I've never got a ticket, but what I'm saying is that's what the law says. So if there is no crosswalk, you are free to walk across the street. And I should have maybe done a separate video about pedestrian crossings, but if I was to decide to walk out in traffic, legally by the law, these people should have to stop for me, because it wouldn't make sense that they would you would legally be able to run over somebody because they stepped into traffic. Now, if you jumped in front of a car, that's different than stepping out into traffic and expecting people to stop for you. Yeah, so I'm really pissed because of this guy. So let's circle back to the initial incident. The initial incident, the guy, in my opinion, the guy didn't seem to have his wits about him. I don't know if he was on drugs, if he was just one of those crazy people that's driving. Who knows? Maybe he's had a bunch of DUIs. So, yeah, I didn't tell you. So after he said, you'd had a big fucking problem, wouldn't you? And then I said, no, you'd had a fucking big problem. And it looked like he was gonna get out. I elected to pull out and move on because my logical brain took over and said, I don't need to get in a fight at 2 o'clock in the afternoon over some stupid traffic thing. My thing is, I don't think I have road rage as much as I do letting people know the mistake that they made. Sure is busy today. It's like cars, cars, cars. Cars, cars, cars. It's like that Motley Crue song. Girls, girls, cars, and girls. So, there's something in my throat. So the thing is, yeah, I don't necessarily have an issue with, I want to call somebody an MFer or SF or an F'er or whatever. Is more that I just want to say, hey, you know what you just did? I want you to realize what you just did mistake-wise, and then maybe it'll wake people up because they realize they just cut me off or something like that. Because I think a lot of drivers, I don't know. Oh, that was the third thing was, so the first thing was terrible driver, like this guy, these two fruit bags. Impaired driver. Third thing was distracted driver. That was what it was supposed to be. They're on the cell phone, talking to somebody on FaceTime, and maybe they're not 100% attuned to what they're doing. And fourth thing could be they're in a hurry. You know, they're just trying to cut corners because they're in a hurry and their time is more important than your time. So anyway, after you know, I said my bit, I decided this guy didn't look all that well, and I didn't want to get in a fight, so I just took off. But there has been cases in my younger days where I chased a guy down after he almost killed me, and I let him know that he cut me off, and I honked at this guy, and he didn't, like, sometimes people make a mistake and they'll wave at you, sorry about that. They acknowledge the mistake and they know what they did wrong, okay? So there's been those cases where people have acknowledged what they've done and you just let it go because it's a learning experience. I mean, none of us are perfect drivers, but as long as you acknowledge what you did, then you learn. Just as if you're a brand new, why is it so loud over here? Just as when you're a new driver, sometimes if you get into an accident when you're young, you learn, boy, it's easy to get into a car accident. I didn't realize that experience of burning your hand on the stove and then going, oh, well, that's freaking hot. I'm not going to do that anymore. You know, it's those early experiences which shape your, shape your afterlife, your advanced life. And we're always learning lessons about stuff. It's been a long time since I've been in an accident, and I hope to keep it that way for the rest of my life, but you just never know. So, a lot of people have on their cars, be wary of motorcycles or something like that, or be on the lookout for motorcycles. You have to, because if you make a mistake and hit a motorcycle driver, they're probably going to be critically injured. If a motorcycle driver hits you, they're probably going to be injured too. So either way, the motorcycle driver usually loses. Unless somehow you were doing an Evel Knievel and you jumped into somebody's window or something and completely incapacitated. You don't hear of a lot of accidents where motorcycles hit a car and then the person in the car is taken to the hospital, but the motorcycle driver's fine. So that's my point today, is just please pay attention to all cars as well as motorcycles, because we cannot afford to get into a motorcycle accident, because like I said, usually the injury factor is many times worse than if you get in a fender bender. So that's my spiel for today. And there's going to be bad drivers out there. I know that, but it's my job to let them know that they're a bad driver. And that's all I got to say about that. See you in the next video, guys.